Hello and welcome to Matt Loves Eurovision. It's my Eurovision 2024 Top 37 countdown, place number 8. It's Armenia, Ladaniva with Jako. Please do click on the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, like, share and comment below. Link to the music videos in the description, as is the link to my blog post. So in my 8th place, Armenia is the highest place of the trio of Caucasus countries in my countdown. And I think this is actually the highest placing I've ever given Armenia in my countdown, or at least in my countdown since I started basing it on my own personal preference. And that was, I think, 2018 onwards when I started doing my own personal preference rather than taking the ranking from elsewhere. Now, Armenia are not as successful as Azerbaijan at the contest, who of course have got the one win, but they are more successful than their other neighbours, Georgia. And in fact, they've only non-qualified 3 times since they first entered in 2006. In that time, they've had 6 top 10 placings, but they haven't had a top 10 placing since 2016. So is 2024 the year that the duo Ladaniva can take Armenia back up the results board? Now, Ladaniva are a French-Armenian world music group from Lille, and they're made up of Armenian singer Jacqueline Bagdasaryan, and she is the eponymous Jako of the song title, and French multi-instrumentalist Louis Thomas. Now, Jacqueline was born in Armenia, then grew up in Belarus, and then before she emigrated to France 10 years ago, she attended the music school Conservatoire de Lille. Louis is French, he's a jazz musician, and he also attended the Conservatoire de Lille. They met by chance in a jam session in a music bar, and they began producing music content during the pandemic. They did two music videos that were popular among the Armenian community in particular. Of course, France has a very large Armenian community. They had even bigger success with a follow-up to those videos, and then they released their first album last year. Now, their music is, of course, inspired by Armenian folk music and traditional songs, but also parts from that wider region, so it's such as the Balkans, and further afield still from influences from places like Latin America and Africa. You can hear a lot of that in their extremely catchy Eurovision song, Jako. It is sung in Armenian, all in Armenian, but with Louis demonstrating his multi-instrumentalist skills. The song title is actually the diminutive name of Jacqueline, that Jacqueline had as a child, and the song's all about her being told what she should or should not do as a girl, but her response is to stay true to yourselves and get up and dance no matter what other people say. So it's a light-hearted song, very tongue-in-cheek, but with an important message behind it. Now, this does press a lot of my Eurovision buttons. It's catchy, it's up-tempo, it's empowering, showcases the language, the music, the instrumentation of the country, combined with those wider influences. And I just find myself smiling so much through with this song, and the music video is full of cheekiness and humour. Their live performance at, I think it was the Madrid pre-party, demonstrated that they are full of energy on stage as well and can really enliven an audience. And this Jako has that call and response element in it that I think will go really well in the hall with a live audience. Now, I think Jako has a good chance of being this year's Trenolatul. Now, Trenolatul was the Moldovan entry in 2022 that didn't do very well with the juries, but it got an enormous public vote. It's a fun, crowd-involving ethnic party bop. Now, what's more, in Euro jury, this scored well with the jury element. So while perhaps it's a bit much to expect it to get the gargantuan televote that Moldova did, and I think Moldova was benefited from being right in the middle of a lot of slower tempo, more serious songs. I think this may get a few more points from the jury than Moldova did than they did back in 2022. Now, the scoreboard app, this is doing okay, not brilliant, but not badly. It's not as high in the rankings as perhaps you might expect. That also goes for the pin position if you look in the semi-final only option, although it does suggest it will qualify. But I think the betting odds on this to qualify are much more positive. Barring poor staging or performance, I think a much better reflection on how it will do. I think the thing to bear in mind also, as well as it being a real crowd pleaser and this is televote only, you have voting in this semi-final. You have France, which has a huge Armenian community, and invariably, or in the same way that Ireland and the UK in the televote always vote for Lithuania and Poland because of a strong diaspora vote. And the same goes with France. They vote for Armenia from the televote repeatedly in large numbers. But you also have Greece with their connections with Armenia, and also they have their neighbours Georgia as well, all voting in this semi-final. So I think I would say that even from just a base of diaspora or neighbour voting, they are in a pretty good place to qualify. So I do think it's going to be in the grand final. I think it's going to be a lot of fun in the grand final. I think it's going to be a great addition to that big live audience, wherever it appears in the running order. Now, maybe top 10 is asking for a bit much, but I think that will all depend on kind of how does it slot into the running order and just how much of the televote it will scoop up. And it will scoop up a section of the televote, I am sure. What do you think of the song? How do you think it will do? As always, let me know in the comments, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.